Hello, my name is Melissa. I was a 20-year-old college student when I met 26-year-old Steven on a dating app. Despite our age difference, we quickly fell in love. I have always believed that love is not confined by age or appearance, so the fact that Steven was older never bothered me. However, Steven was constantly troubled by our age gap, frequently questioning, "Why are you with me, Melissa? You could find someone your age who might be a better match." But I chose him because I loved him, and to me, age was merely a number. Steven's insecurities were deeply rooted, and he would often insist, "There must be other reasons, Melissa. It's not usual for someone like you to love someone like me. I wish you'd just tell me the real reason." I reassured him time and again that my feelings were sincere. I wasn't interested in dating someone my own age. I loved him, and that was what mattered to me. Despite my reassurances, Steven's doubts persisted, revealing deeper self-esteem issues that seemed to have kept him single before we met. Determined to demonstrate my genuine affection, I made it a point never to allow Steven to spend excessively on me. While I was a college student managing my finances, I wasn't wealthy but ensured I bought him thoughtful gifts and handled my own expenses. I always worked part-time jobs, ensuring I wasn't financially dependent on him. Steven appeared to appreciate these gestures, but unfortunately, his insecurities didn't subside, and he continued to doubt the sincerity of my love, which deeply hurt me. It took 3 years before I fully understood the roots of Steven's issues when I met his parents, Alexander and Sophia. Alexander, Steven's father, had a stroke of luck when he won the lottery, which dramatically altered their lives. This background helped me understand the environment that shaped Steven's views and insecurities. After their lottery win, Alexander and Sophia purchased an opulent house and invested the remainder of their winnings wisely. However, their newfound wealth seemed to foster a sense of superiority. During our first meeting, Alexander often boasted, "Not everyone makes it big like me. I was just a hard worker, and look where it got me. Do you realize how rare it is to win big in the lottery? Yet, I managed it on my first try." They were quite proud of their decision-making skills, often implying that Steven, despite his college education, would never achieve their level of financial success. Sophia frequently suggested that Steven's previous partners were only after his money, leaving him as soon as they were better off financially. They openly doubted Steven's ability to make good decisions, which infuriated me. It seemed like Steven's parents were painting every woman he dated as a gold digger, and over time, Steven began to internalize this narrative himself. This insinuation that I was merely another opportunist became a painful and embarrassing aspect of their story. Tired of their groundless claims, I defended both Steven and myself. "I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Steven has diligently worked to build his career and he's poised for even more success," I stated. However, Alexander countered, "Well, that doesn't alter the fact that women are only interested in him for his money. The money we possess is ours, but Steven does co-own the house, which will eventually be his. Every time these girls see our $350,000 house, I swear they're just seeing dollar signs." I couldn't hold back. "I can't speak for Steven's past relationships, but I am certainly not in this for the money. I love your son, and that's why we're together. I have no interest in your house." Sophia then added, "Don't worry, Melissa. Sometimes it's hard to accept that people can be successful and live in nice houses. You live in a small rented apartment with roommates, you might start desiring it after spending time around our house too." Their remarks tested my patience to its limit, and I was close to losing my temper. Steven heard everything but chose not to respond or defend himself, instead steering the conversation in a different direction. His indifferent attitude on our way home surprised me. After a particularly tense visit with his parents, I felt it was essential to confront the issue directly with Steven. "Steven, your parents are being unfair and hurtful towards both of us. Why didn't you stand up for me?" Steven sighed, his frustration evident. What did you expect me to say, Melissa? My past isn't exactly encouraging. I've been used before by people who only saw my parents' wealth, making plans for when they would inherit the house. Even if they were wrong before, that doesn't mean they're wrong about everything. I felt a pang of hurt. Even if those women were after your money, that doesn't mean I am. It hurt that you stayed silent while your family insulted me. Stephen looked conflicted. You know my family is wealthy now, and maybe they have a point. I'm not accusing you of having bad intentions, but I can see why it might look questionable to others. You don't have parents, and because of that, you might seem more reliant on my inheritance. His words were almost too much to bear. What you're suggesting is absurd, Stephen. I've never pressured you to spend on me. Not having an inheritance does not make me a gold digger. Stephen remained stubborn, unwilling to see my perspective. I love you, and that's what matters. Let's not argue about this anymore, he said, dismissing the need for further discussion. While some might have taken comfort in his declaration of love, I couldn't shake the feeling that he still harbored doubts about my intentions. I tried repeatedly to discuss it, even suggesting therapy to help him see things more clearly, but he refused, insisting there was nothing wrong. As time went on, I began distancing myself from his fans. We got engaged right after I graduated from college, and I landed a decent job. This enabled me to start saving for our wedding. We split the wedding costs equally and tied the knot when I was 23. However, the subsequent 4 years of our marriage were tumultuous. Stephen often visited his parents, returning each time more aloof and distressed. I was aware that Alexander and Sophia were continuing to taint his perception of me, still labeling me as a gold digger despite my pleas for him to limit his interactions with them. Nonetheless, Stephen kept visiting them frequently, and their negative opinions started to deeply influence his perspective on our relationship, convincing him that no one could truly appreciate him for who he was. Despite years of my steadfast affection, Stephen's doubts about me never seemed to diminish, and the burden of continually having to justify my loyalty became increasingly burdensome. However, a significant test of our relationship occurred on Stephen's birthday. Opting for a simple celebration, we decided to have a modest cake party at home. Eager to make his day memorable, I surprised him with an expensive watch he had long desired. Stephen was overjoyed with the present, but my heart sank when he suggested we display it to his parents. Reluctantly, I accompanied him. Upon our arrival, Stephen eagerly showed his new watch to his parents. "Mom, Dad, look at this beautiful watch Melissa got me. I've wanted it for so long. Isn't it wonderful?" His excitement was evident. Sophia reacted with mild astonishment. "Oh Stephen, it seems she does care for you after all. We've been quite concerned." However, Alexander quickly retorted, "Don't be naive, old girl. She's a gold digger. She married our son because we own a $350,000 house. Let's not overlook the obvious." Unable to hold back my frustration, I protested, "Excuse me, why do you think I married your son?" "For your house. I've been employed and living in an apartment for years. Moreover, if age was a factor, why would I marry someone older unless it was for true love? I assure you, I didn't marry Stephen for his money or your property. I married him because I love him. Surely, Stephen can attest to that, right?" To my dismay, Stephen remained silent. His reluctance to defend me in front of his critical parents was deeply troubling. I felt increasingly alienated as he avoided eye contact, succumbing to their severe judgments. Pushed to my limit, I confronted him. "Stephen, why are you silent? Your parents constantly label me as a gold digger. How will they ever understand the real me if you don't speak up? Why are you so quiet? Tell them they're wrong." Stephen's hesitation was evident. He muttered, I don't know what to say, Melissa. Maybe maybe my parents aren't entirely wrong. There could be a chance. His words faded, but the implication was clear. This doubt, this inability to stand by me, was more than a mere misunderstanding. It was a profound rift in the foundation of our relationship, casting a shadow over our love and my position in his life. Stephen's birthday celebration, which quickly turned bitter, left me shocked by the accusations directed at me. "Are you serious right now? Stephen, you believe I married you for your wealth," his parents interjected, their doubts apparent. "Strangely, you've never considered buying a house, have you? For someone who rents, owning a home should be a top priority. You haven't even discussed it with him. Our home is beyond your budget, you could never afford something like this by yourself. So, marrying Stephen and settling here seems more reasonable." Stephen gazed at me with a blend of skepticism and bewilderment. "Yeah, Melissa, why would you marry me? You might have feelings for me, but I suspect there's more to it than just love." I was dumbfounded by their remarks. All the love and devotion I had for Stephen dissipated instantly. Both my in-laws and my husband regarded me as nothing more than a fortune hunter. While the skepticism from his parents was painful, it was Stephen's concurrence that cut the deepest. At that moment, I decided to end our marriage. I didn't disclose my decision immediately, instead, I waited for the right moment. Once back at home, I contacted a lawyer and initiated the divorce proceedings. The lawyer reassured me that everything would be ready within a week. Meanwhile, I moved into a separate room to give myself some space. Stephen assumed I was just cooling off and had no idea about my plans. When the divorce papers were prepared, I packed my belongings and left. Stephen, clearly agitated, called me in a panic. I instructed him to meet me at a specific address and to bring his parents. Despite his bewilderment, he complied. As they arrived, I stood on the porch of an impressive house. Their faces registered shock as they took in the surroundings. "You must be wondering why I brought you here," I began, indicating the luxurious setting. "It's a magnificent house, isn't it? It's valued at about $3 million in today's market, quite pricey, right?" My dramatic choice of setting was meant to demonstrate that their accusations and suspicions were baseless. I was not the person they assumed I was, and I needed to clarify that in the most memorable way. "But it's worth every penny," I said, motioning towards the opulent interior of the house, which also featured furniture worth millions. "What is this place, Melissa? I don't understand why you have access to such a house," Stephen asked, puzzled. "Why don't you all come in so we can talk more comfortably?" "I can't explain everything standing here on the porch," I suggested, brushing off their astonishment as I led them inside. They followed, their eyes widening in awe at the lavish decor that greeted us. The owners had spared no expense in furnishing their home. As we settled into the plush sofas, I took a deep breath, ready to address the elephant in the room. "I've made a decision, and that's why we're here. I filed for divorce," I announced, handing over the papers. "We can proceed with an uncontested divorce if you agree." "What? I don't understand. Why are you filing for divorce?" Stephen's voice was a mix of confusion and concern. "It's simple," I said, my voice calm despite the whirlwind of emotions within me. "You and your parents believe I'm a gold digger. You think I married you for your house and your wealth, despite my assertions to the contrary. You've ignored my explanations, so it's better for all if I depart, relieving you of what you consider my mercenary tendencies. You're contemplating divorce merely because my parents voiced what they believe to be the truth." "That's absurd," Stephen countered, his tone incredulous. "I believe it's for the best," I responded, resolute. His mother, observing the conversation with an inscrutable face, interjected, "If she's so determined, you should just sign the papers, Stephen. Then at least you can find someone who genuinely loves you. Why did you bring us to this house, Melissa? Do you expect me to purchase this as part of our divorce settlement? Stephen asked, suspicion evident in his voice. Why would I need you to buy this house, Stephen? This house is already mine, I answered calmly, watching their surprise and disbelief unfold. They looked at me as though I was jesting. How on earth can you afford a house like this? You're renting and your job isn't enough to cover something like this. Stop lying to us, Stephen's father demanded, his voice filled with skepticism. Their disbelief was palpable, but I was prepared to demonstrate my independence and financial capability. This revelation was not just a claim of my financial independence but also a declaration of my autonomy, fundamentally changing the dynamics of our relationship. I'm not lying, I stated firmly, observing the disbelief on their faces. Stephen, remember when I mentioned that my parents left me some inheritance? Well, this house is part of it. It's held in a trust for now, but I will officially inherit it when I turn 31. I don't need to work a high-paying job because I have a trust fund awaiting me. That's impossible, Stephen interjected. Your parents passed away a long time ago. They should have given you the house earlier. You see, my parents were aware of the potential opportunists I might attract, I explained. So they instructed me never to reveal the house or the trust fund to anyone. Call it foresight, but they anticipated that someone might try to take advantage of me. Hence, they placed everything in a trust to protect it until I turned 31, by which time I'd hopefully be settled with someone who truly cared for me, not my inheritance. Oh my God, Melissa, you should have told us about your wealth. We had no idea. This is a sizable house you have. We could all live very comfortably here, Stephen's mother exclaimed. Yeah, you should have shared that sooner. We thought you were after our house. We could have avoided all the misunderstandings, Stephen added, looking relieved yet somewhat embarrassed. I always knew Melissa was perfect for Stephen. I've been saying she's a great woman. Look how wealthy she is. Stephen found a great match, his father chimed in, his tone dramatically altered. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Their attitude toward me had shifted so quickly it was dizzying. What was even more bizarre was that they seemed to suddenly forget about the divorce papers. I had them in hand, pulling out the divorce papers. As I signed them, I said, "Here's my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can just sign these to make things easy. If you want to fight, we can take this to court, but I won't live with you anymore." Wait, Melissa, listen to me. There's no need to rush this, Stephen implored. You've already proven you're not a gold digger. There's no reason to get a divorce anymore. We even apologize for any misunderstanding. That should make things better, right? Yes, Alexander is correct. We're sorry, Melissa. We doubted you for no reason, his mother chimed in, her voice filled with remorse. Despite their apologies and their sudden change of heart, the memory of their initial judgments and accusations remained vivid in my mind, reinforcing my decision to distance myself from a relationship where trust had to be earned rather than assumed. I don't want your insincere apologies, I stated resolutely, my determination firm. For 3 years, you allowed your family to criticize me and label me a gold digger. I expected you to defend me, but instead, you sided with them and even accused me of the same. I can't stay with someone who doesn't respect his wife. I'm done, Stephen. We can part ways amicably or involve the courts, the choice is yours. Sophia and Alexander tried desperately to persuade me to reconsider, begging me to forget the past. In their view, what had happened was just a minor misunderstanding. However, their lack of genuine remorse for damaging my reputation only fueled my anger. When I reached my breaking point, I demanded that they leave before I called the police. My firm stance intimidated them, and they left without further protest. Over the next few weeks, Stephen and his parents continued to harass me. They begged, pleaded, and even offered bribes to convince me to stay. Their belief that money could influence my decision only intensified my resolve. It was a stark revelation of their persistent perception of me as someone motivated by financial gain. Ironically, since Stephen co-owned the house with his parents, I was entitled to half of his share, which only increased their desperation for reconciliation. Despite their relentless efforts, I remained firm in my decision to part ways. I moved all my belongings to my parents' house, asserting my right to stay there even before officially taking ownership. Stephen and his parents persisted in their attempts to contact me, prompting me to change my phone number to avoid their constant calls from unfamiliar numbers. Stephen even tried to discuss matters at my workplace, but I had informed security beforehand, and they asked him to leave. Stephen still hadn't signed the divorce papers, holding out hope for a change in my decision. Nearly a year has passed, and yet the situation remains unresolved, a testament to the complexity and emotional depth of our entangled lives since I initiated the divorce proceedings. With less than a year remaining until the legal process is concluded, I've managed quite well on my own, living independently. I found both happiness and financial stability, and while I've gone on a few dates. Currently, I'm not interested in anything serious. According to a cousin of Stephen, his family is now concerned about having to pay me my rightful share of the house. The legal costs are accumulating, and their savings are proving inadequate. Stephen is even suggesting selling the house, feeling resentful towards his parents for the turmoil they've caused in his life. At this point, I'm indifferent to their problems. My sole aim is to extricate myself from that toxic family and move forward with my life.